Good evening, welcome to episode 102. Episode 100 and 200? That's not even a number. Welcome to episode 200 of the Brewgoders Beer Comics Assorted Geekery podcast. I'm Jeff. To my right in the middle is Mr. John Bruce.
Hello.
And on the far right, but not as far as we're aware, a member of the far right is Stu of Lager Logs. You right, guys?
Oh.
Yep, doing good, yeah.
Yeah.
What's in it? Please tell me it's not Tenants. No, it doesn't matter. I actually quite like Tenants.
It's a single one brewing gear shift.
Oh, nice.
Shifter. Yeah. It wasn't even me that got this glass. Like Tom, like a brummie down England, stole this for me and sent it to me and said it's a present. So I'm pretty sure I could walk into my garden and find two of those.
Just
freshly lifted
after a pub fight gone awry.
Yeah, they put it down, see to their business, then they forget to come back for their empties.
Exactly. I've got a couple. I admittedly have got a couple of Tenants glasses just because I've got a pal that owns a pub, and she often is trying to shift, with a couple of the breweries that she works with. Like obviously, we'll give them like promo glasses quite a lot. So there's only so much glass space they've got. So as she's binning glasses, she'll drop me a wee message from time to time saying like, I've got a couple of this and that. They're never anything good. She'll just bring down like assortment of glasses and she got me. Was it the hybrid, like the hybrid lager that I got one of them once from Drygate. That's about as diverse as it gets. This is an old man's pub. But it's a lovely pub. The Monarch in Dunfermline. Everyone should go there if you want to. It's just barmy. I'll go there on a Friday night, and it's quite wild. I was in there a couple of months ago, and after a gig, I went in there, and genuinely everybody was standing on seats singing "Going Local" and Acapulco really, really loudly while I was playing on the jukebox. And actually, I was just like to the barmaid, my pal Steph. I was like, "What's going on?" And she's like, "It's Friday night, eh?" That's the only context I was getting.
Fair enough.
Okay. So I'm just finishing a red wine. Sorry, in my brand new Tiny Rebel glass. So.
There you go.
And then I'm going to be moving on.
That is an act of rebellion indeed.
Yes, and I'm going to be moving on to a Superhero Landing from Tiny Rebel, which is a 13% salted caramel popcorn imperial milk stout.
Do you not have any plans tomorrow?
No, not one. I've cleared my diary. It's quite a cool can art though. It's got obviously they've had to go out their way to
make their own versions.
There's nods to Homelander there, I think, and Deadpool.
Yeah.
But no, I'm good. I'm looking forward to it. I've had it before. It's nice. But yeah. Got Tiny Rebel, a box of Tiny Rebel for Christmas. I'm just working my way through.
What was that concoction? Salted caramel popcorn.
Salted caramel popcorn imperial milk stout.
Milk stout. Okay.
I wanted to talk about this because we never talk about this on the podcast, right? But when we talk about percentages, and we often go, but I mean 30%, yeah, for a beer, that's a lot.
Yes.
But that's what was it? 330 mils. One of these cans.
Yeah.
So a large glass of wine, which is also 13%, is 250 ml. So it's only 80 mils more liquid.
Mm-hmm.
But we often say that on the podcast. If any of us have anything more than 7%, we're all like, oh, somebody's not going to work.
I mean, Buckfast, for example, that's 15%.
Jeez.
I'm quite annoyed that you were able to just go over and pick up a bottle of Buckfast.
So, and also that's just the wee small joke gift at a wedding. Yeah. When they get to the proper sizes, where people tan a bottle of that, and it's 15%. So yeah, maybe we should be more daring, or show less fright when it's a high percentage beer.
Yeah,
I'm only having one. I'm not having 6.
Yeah. I've just always noticed that. That's something we've always kind of been that, and then but I'll
slow down. Yeah,
totally. Right, we'll bring in our guest then. So I want to bring him on because he's just a good lad. So Matt was my neighbour I've known Matt for a wee while, but he's a fantastic comic writer, an ebook writer. But he was also my neighbour at Dunfermline Comic Art Fair this year, so it was cool just to sit and chill with him and chat movies and stuff. So yeah, he's a total Brewgooder at heart. His comic works include Crawl, Wyrm, and Drops. Wyrm's his newest book, which was successfully crowdfunded in October. He's a brilliant up-and-coming comic talent. Fans of psychological horror, surreal imagery, and satire should definitely check Matt out. And yeah, glad to have him here. Hey Matt, you're right.
Hey Jeff, thanks. Thank you for the introduction.
I'm
Thanks
not
for having me
gonna
on
lie,
your
but
200th
the
show.
introduction I wrote for you at decaf. It was just the same. It was just exactly the same thing I wrote for you back then. So.
Yeah, it was a good event, the Dunfermline Comic Con. Yeah, thanks for putting that on as well. It was the most interesting venue I've ever been to for a Comic Con, I think.
Yeah.
I'm in the attic room of
the oldest residence in Dunfermline's ancient capital, Scotland's ancient capital. That was cool. I'm glad you liked it. Did you do quite well that day? I never really got around to was it worth your time?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did really well. Like for the size of the convention, I was actually surprised how many people ended up coming through. Like it got so busy, and yeah, I did really well there. So yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I like the idea of doing the raffle as well. Like I thought the raffle was a really good idea, so everyone could put a book in, and that was a nice little thing at the end for everyone.
It was quite annoying. Everybody it was the same 5 folk that won, but I did the maths and actually. So they're playing Mario next door. Super Mario Advance, I think they're playing. The raffle made about 90 quid, which is quite a lot. It's good. It was enough to cover enough to cover next year's convention, which is cool because that was kind of one of the deals. Was that if the people that came last year would get first refusal next year, but also by donating to the raffle, they were getting their table for next year for free as well, because the raffle should pay for the next event, and then it would just kind of continue like that going forward. And it made enough, but then actually doing the maths, I think most people spent a £5 and then bought a bunch of strips. So when we were doing the raffle at the end of the day, the same folk kept winning, but actually it worked out that I did the maths afterwards. I was like, well, we made 90 quid, but if 10 folk have spent a tenner, 5 folk have spent a £5 each, that's 50 tickets of the 90 that are in the bag. So because there was a point, and if you watch the video back, I'm just pulling out the same names over and over again. There was maybe only about 20 folk in the raffle.
Yeah, I think I just got one strip, but I won the Blazer comic, but I haven't read it yet. It's still back here somewhere in the thing.
Blazer's a funky one. All the stories are written by Steve McManus, but then who was the former editor of 2000? He was the first editor of 2000 AD. Sorry, and then obviously they've then got it's a good. I think the fourth Blazer started crowdfunding yesterday, and I think it's already been funded. I'll check that out. It's good. It's a good series.
Yeah,
Colin does a story in there. So, anyway, how are you doing? What's happening?
Yeah,
Tell us about it.
Yeah, I'm good. So yeah, like you said in the introduction, I write. I was started off writing ebooks, and then I was going to Comic Cons and thought I'd try my hand at writing comics. So I got into doing that as well. So I did my first one back in probably 2018, something like that. Crawl, which was a 3-part sort of satirical technological thriller about the surveillance state and government media corruption, all this kind of contemporary stuff that's in the media. And then recently I've been working with artists. So I've got Drops, which is my psychological horror comic.
That cover man gets me every time I see it.
Yeah, so I did this one with Connor Montgomery, who's an artist from Edinburgh, really fantastic. I met him at Dunfermline Comic Con, the big one that was run by Little Shop of Heroes.
Yeah,
back the last one they did. and he just happened to come up to my table and said, "Oh, I'm graduating from an art degree at I think it was Dundee University." And he's like, "Oh, I'm looking for writers." I was like, "Oh, well, I'm a writer looking for an artist, so perfect." So yeah, I wrote that, and he's really good. Like he does a lot of like he's really into his 80s horror, like Michael Myers and Freddy Krueger. So he does a lot of prints of that kind of stuff, and like I really liked his sort of gritty style. So I was like, oh yeah, that would be a good fit for that. And then yeah, as you say, this last year I was working on this comic, Wyrm, with James Killian, who's an artist from Ireland, and Trilby Black, who's a colorist from, I'm not exactly sure where she's from, but I've read some comics that have been colored by her before. It was Abyssal Albion. I don't know if you know that one. Abyssal Albion. Yeah, it's like a H.P. Lovecraft themed apocalyptic horror. But yeah, she does the colors for the covers for those ones. So yeah, I reached out to her. So yeah, I'm just trying to like make connections with other artists, colorists. Yeah, I suppose just about expanding your network and working with different people. That's like what I'm finding most exciting at the moment. Kind of, yeah, working with other people, because I feel like my skills lie in the writing more so than the like the first comic I ever did. I decided to write it, draw it, print it, letter it, do everything myself. And then I realized why people usually have a team making a comic, because it's very hard to be very good at all the aspects of making them.
I totally envy and the people that can do that. Kind of the same. I sort of lean towards writing as well, and then but I have done stuff where I've done everything, and I'm just like, it's just not as good for me personally. It's just not as good as like when you pay an artist to do like 4 pages because you can't be bothered drawing them yourself, and they just come back with some of the nicest art you can imagine. You're like, you should just do this with everything.
Yeah, it's always exciting as well to see like what they come up with from your script, because it might not be exactly how you imagined it, but usually better than you imagined it. Or they put a twist on it and you think, oh yeah, that's much better than what I'd imagined. So yeah, it's really exciting seeing that. And I think everyone's art style as well sort of matches different types of stories. Like it's kind of finding that match between their art style and the story that you have. So that's kind of interesting thing. So I'm also working on another comic book with a girl called Rebecca. I think her website's at Rebecca Elysium. And on Instagram, she'll be at Rebecca Elysium. But yeah, she's really good as well. She's based down near Leeds. So that's like more of a sci-fi one and a bit longer than what I've done before. It's about 50 something pages, I think. So yeah, a bit of a longer form story.
Is it Rebecca Elise? Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. It might be. Yeah.
So you're writing that and then she's drawing that. Is that right?
Yeah. So I'm writing it and she's drawing it and coloring it for me. So yeah, like that's going really well. That's about like halfway done at the moment. Yeah, because it was quite funny. I met her down at Thought Bubble a couple of years ago, because we'd only spoken online about the comic, and I was telling her, oh yeah, I saw you were drawing some space type stuff, sci-fi space things, and this is like sci-fi story. So I was like, oh, it's perfect. Like I really like your style. And she said, yeah, it's weird because actually I like my favorite thing to draw is fantasy, like dragons and fantasy stuff. But for some weird reason, like people keep coming to her with sci-fi and space things to draw.
But I think that happens quite a lot. Like this is Rebecca's stuff here. I find myself one of my favorite artists, and kind of coming back to what you're saying about as a writer, one of the most exciting things about being a writer is I really enjoy like handing out stories and see what the artists come up with. But like one of the things I do with the Spirit of Inky is obviously I probably spend more money on like a page rate on the covers, because I want like obviously unlike that, obviously the old saying is don't judge a book by its cover, but in comics that's pretty much all you're doing. for
Yeah.
particularly at cons. So I just pick artists that I really like and see what they can do. So obviously Colin, I had Enrique do issue 1. I had Colin Maxwell, our pal Colin, do issue 2. Then I had James Lawrence doing issue 3, and then I've got Monroe Mart doing issue 4, and I'm hoping to get. I won't announce it yet. I'm hoping to get just in case they can't do it. But I quite like that. I like you say. It's quite exciting being able to, like, when you discover an artist and be like, oh, I want to see what this artist does with my story.
Yeah. So do you usually get a different artist to do the cover than a
different artist for each cover? I quite annoyingly, just because it took so long, we talked about this actually at TCAF. Like Spirit of NK4 has been delayed by 2 years because I got ripped off basically by an artist who, like, I paid him to do my work. I gave him half the sort of standard ideas that you give your artist half at the start to get started, and then you give them the rest of their fee on completion, or you can work. There's different ways to pay an artist, but that was the agreement I had, which is kind of sort of industry standard. Is you give your artist a bit of money as like almost like a deposit to get them going. But I paid an artist who sent me some really good work. He signed a contract, and then he just ghosted me. Just ghosted me straight afterwards. And then I realized very quickly that, because like on Facebook, a lot of you should have gone with an artist you trust. And it was like, well, I did trust this guy, and he signed a contract. But then I realized very quickly that that doesn't really mean anything if your artist just ghosts you and lives in another continent. It's like there's no way of getting that chased back up. But yeah, so I can't remember what I was going with that. Yeah, so I
it's really tough when you're working with artists. Yeah, like especially if it, like you say, if it's someone not living in this country, like you've no way of getting in touch with them otherwise. Like that's why, like the first one I did, obviously it was like someone that I'd met. So I was kind of like, okay, he lives in Edinburgh. Like very worst, I could go to Edinburgh, and chase him down. But yeah, he's been really good. And then the other ones, I kind of looked online, and there were people who'd worked on other comic books with other writers that you know. So I was kind of okay. I've never met them before, but I'm assuming since they've completed all these projects, somewhat safe. But you're never 100% sure, I guess.
Yeah, I get that totally. You're definitely, but we've talked about a lot about it on the show as well. Like what I love about the comic scene, and particularly like the local comic scene now, probably every creator all over the world has a very similar experience. But I really like our little pocket of creators that we've got in sort of central Scotland. And nobody's out to get anyone else. There's nobody like stepping on anyone else to like in an attempt to like further their own career at the expense of someone else. There's nothing like that. And my experience internationally is that kind of same. I think all of us here we're all part of like Facebook groups of creators or like-minded individuals who just of varieties of different sort of communities where you just want to blether and share interests. And obviously that's where I go to get artists, is like I'll chat to folk if I see somebody's work and I'm like, I really like your stuff. So you just assume that like that general community aspect that definitely exists in our corner of Scotland, and Scotland overall exists internationally. And I just found the one guy who was quite happy to take advantage of that.
Yeah, just unfortunate. Yeah, that's a shame. But yeah, it's definitely a good community here in Scotland. Like whenever you go to the shows and things, it's kind of the same groups. Like obviously new people coming in all the time, but it's good seeing like the same faces and everyone gets along.
I love that as well. I love that new aspect, and like people just become part of the community. So like new folk come in. So I remember a couple of years ago, I did a convention at not an event convention. Sorry, I should say. I did one of the BGCP marts in Dunfermline, and I met Jack Smith there, who had just come out of Dundee University, and he's now obviously he had a table in the same corner as you and me at the decaf thing, but also he had a table at Thought Bubble, and I met him at Pride last year, and he's just obviously he did stuff for the anthology, and it's really exciting being just like he's such a talented creator. I've just seen him coming through in the last couple of years and just become part of the community. And then obviously last year, it happens. There's loads of folk every year, but last year Simon Forrester jumps to mind with Rats. You know,
yes,
Yeah. Cage Rats.
Cage Rats, yeah.
Cage Rats, yeah. He came and spoke to us, and we talked about, like, came to us in February, and was just really, really excited. And it was just, I was at it was a wee convention in Livingston, and he came up and chatted to us about his comic. I was next to Crana, like I seem to always be at conventions. But he came up and chatted to me in Crana for ages, and then went and made his way around. And I'm not going to lie, like, totally hand on heart felt like, well, this is like, because you meet guys like that at conventions quite a lot. Guys have got ideas, and then when you kind of prod them a wee bit further, it's more pie in the sky, you know, like their idea of it is a wee bit more pie in the sky. And I kind of got that impression on Simon. I was like, oh, he's just a guy who's got an idea, and it's a pretty cool idea, and he's very excited about it. And we'll see where that goes. But a month later, bang, funded on Kickstarter. Does every convention on this, and he's doing really well with his book. And
I bought it. Yeah, I bought it. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I spoke to Simon a couple of times. Same thing. Like, spoke to me for ages. Just like how you get into things and how, like, telling me all about the artist that he was working with. Yeah, super passionate, which is what you have to be when you're in like small comics. I think like you've got to be your own best marketing person for your comic, which he definitely is.
I wish I could do it. Like, I'm not a very good marketer, and when you see guys, you're like, oh, great, like.
Me neither. I'm really bad at like selling my own stuff, even when I'm at conventions. So just don't go for the hard sell.
Well, I found myself at conventions selling other people's stuff because they're not comfortable enough speaking. Luckily, I had a job where I worked with the public for 20 years, so I was able to converse with people. So my very first convention, we didn't think we had enough stuff, me and my friend, for one table, so we shared a table. As it turned out, we had more than enough stuff for one table. But he was very sort of conservative in selling stuff. And I was like, well, look, if you don't like my stuff, check out what he's got over here. So I ended up selling his stuff as well. So he made a fortune that day. So then I was glad to help out, because he was doing me a favor by sharing a table with me. So
it's like you say, like you're saying, Jeff, like no one's out to get anyone. Like I do that at cons all the time. Like say, oh, if you're into like, if they come to my table and say, oh, I'm not really into this stuff, but they say, oh, I'm more into, whatever fantasy or crime, then they might say like, oh, check out this guy's table or check out that table over there. Like they've got really great stuff on that. So. Yeah, or even if it's horror stuff, I'll be like, oh, I was like, if they buy my stuff, I'll be like, oh, you should check out this guy as well, because they do horror, which is really good.
Oh, we did the same. Like, obviously, we had when Andrew was on last week, we talked about this, but it can be a bit derivative to just go and just constantly buy like Spider-Man comics, because different artists and different writers bring different aspects to that. Whereas like, what the more enjoy for us anyway, and definitely for me and Andrew and probably most people, is like following a writer is actually quite rewarding, because then like you find a writer you love, and then you can follow them on different properties, and like some of those properties are massive. Like Ram V went from like Peace Savage Shores is brilliant, and he's now writing X-Men. So actually being able to like follow Batman story he's doing, so being able to follow him and be like, I love what Ram V does when he's doing his own stuff. I want to see what he does with a DC property, and you can follow artists around. It's quite an exciting journey. But when we're at cons, I spend a lot of time like, again, it's like the thematics as well. So like folk are like, oh, I don't really read comics, and it's like, well, what is a comic to you? And they'll be like, like Spider-Man and that. And I was like, that's because you don't, do you like the Spider-Man movies? Not really. It was like, it's maybe just not your thing, but like obviously comics as a medium covers everything. So it's like, what's your favorite film? And then they'll tell me, and I'm like, oh, go and see John Lee's over there. He's got, go see Matt Cooper, go see him. It's funny you're saying like selling other people's work. I think we have a running joke that Steve Ingram sells more copies of Left because of our podcast than he does just selling it himself. Like, I'm always sending folk over to buy Left off Stephen because it's the best comic ever written. It's so good.
Yeah, no, it's true. There's comics like such a broad, diverse range of topics that they cover. Like when I was down at Thought Bubble, there was a guy who done a comic about his experience with type 1 diabetes, which I have. I was diagnosed like more than 10 years ago now. But yeah, I saw this comic and I was like, oh, someone's written a comic about his experiences. And then yeah, they have all sorts of stuff like learn about history, learn about science, and then you've got like every different genre of story out there. So yeah, it's such a broad thing. But I suppose like you say, mainstream comics are probably quite narrow. Like they focus more on superheroes. Is kind of the big seller, I guess.
I think that's
certainly the big two anyway. Yeah, certainly Marvel and DC. That's their kind of bread and butter, isn't it? It's like superheroes and whatnot. And that's where your Image Comics and your Boom Studios and maybe Dark Horse come in, and they'll take on like hot indie creators, and they'll do a mini series or a one shot or an anthology even, and you get to follow those creators into other titles, which I find is quite exciting as well. So that I've started to read a lot more Image, Boom, all those kind of like sort of indie creators as opposed to Marvel and DC. Occasionally I'll pick up the odd Marvel now and again, but yeah, for the most part, it's those other titles. It's exciting stuff.
I just love that solo create that sort of grassroots level. I went to Thought Bubble last year and didn't really have as much fun as I normally would, and I couldn't quite put my finger on why. But actually, it's because I didn't buy any books and I didn't do much trading. And actually, one of my favorite things about Thought Bubble is just finding randos and stuff that random books that I probably wouldn't have like picked up, and where you're saying like discovering guys and then like finding out what else they do, and then like I don't know, like you've got guys like I swear I've discovered quite a lot of the guys I love. It's interesting you mentioned the type 1 diabetes comic, because I struggled when I was younger with a speech impediment, and there's a guy who I met at Thought Bubble a couple of years ago, Joe Stone, who does a comic about dealing with a stutter. I think the comic's called Stutter actually, and it's just great. Like that is like when most people's perception of comics is like you say your DC and your Marvel, and when you like, and I know we talked about it briefly after Decaf. There was a couple of people that were like, I came to the Comic Arts Fair and I think there wasn't any Marvel or DC and I didn't know what to buy, and we were kind of like, that's fair enough. And obviously the little shop of heroes is across the road for all that sort of stuff. They have all that stuff, but we were kind of trying to present something different. So. Yeah, hopefully.
Everything's so personal. Like the stutter one, the diabetes one. Like you get a lot of like really personal stuff, or it's like comics that mean something to people because it's obviously creator owned, like entirely their idea. I suppose there's no like big comic book studio telling them what they have to put in or what they have to take out, so they can just write whatever they want. So that's what I find quite exciting sometimes.
It can be quite rough as well. Like I quite like the lack of finesse sometimes that you come through these, like where it's like somebody wants to tell a story and are quite happy. They'll tell it warts and all rather than like that lack of sheen is often quite rewarding as well.
Yeah, saying that, like going back to the getting into cons and things, like the barrier to entry is so low as well. Like I remember when I started going to Glasgow Comic Con and I was thinking like, oh, I'd love to be here, but I don't know how to get a table. I don't know how to get my books printed. I don't know how to like meet artists. But yeah, for anyone out there who wants to get into it, it really is very, very simple. It's just a case of messaging people. Or I'd like a table, or I like your art. Could you draw this for me? You kind of think there's some mystique to it, and like you need to be part of the club, or you need to be initiated or something. But really, anybody.
It's true, yeah. It's true. I mean, I always joke that I'm not in comics per se. I'm comics adjacent because I work on kind of comic properties for trading cards, but I do my own prints and stuff. So at a convention, you'll always get maybe say a parent coming up with their child and they'll say, oh, well, such and such draws. But you know what? If I can do it, you can do it. Simple as that. All I do, I come home from work, scribble for a couple of hours, draw something. If it's good, fair enough. If I sell one, fine, But if I can do it, you can do it. And there's actually one time at Dunfermline Comic Con where a mother was actually so moved that she was actually crying that I was so, enthused about the son being able to draw. And she showed me his pictures, and he was quite embarrassed and stuff. But she was actually really, really moved to tears, and I thought, wow, okay, what's going on here? But the fact that I was so, enthusiastic towards her son and his art, and that anyone can do it, I'd be interested to see if that kid ever comes back, 10 years' time and said, by the way, I was at a convention and you made my mum cry. I'm like, oh, I'd be interested. But yeah, it's definitely, if I can do it, anyone can do it. Literally, I had 10 prints and a couple of sketch covers that I'd drawn. And this is before I actually got into doing trading cards and whatnot. And that's literally all I had. And only because I knew Albie, because I went to shop a lot of Shop of Heroes. And it was that easy. We're putting on a convention. Do you want to come along? I was like, yeah, fine. And it's that easy. And then you get to start the network. You go and do Glen Rothes Comic Con. You go and do Kirkcaldy Comic Con. You see the same faces, as you said. You see all the same faces. You go, all right, okay, I know that guy, I know that guy. And this is what obviously led to this, me being here. So it's interesting where things can go.
It's amazing. It's like you were saying there as well. That's very practical advice on how to just get into cons. Comics is exactly the same, and I spend a lot of times in conventions, probably to my own detriment, not actually selling my comic, but just chat to folk, and then somebody at a table and they tell you that they do some art, and then I'm always just I'm always looking for artists, whether it's an upcoming project for the Brewgoders, or if I just want something drawn for one of my own stuff. I was like, let me see your stuff, or I can I'm friends with lots of writers who are also always looking for stuff, and I'll point you to the right people. And there's a guy, and I regretfully don't remember his name, but there was a guy at Thought Bubble who spent quite a long time at our table because he'd been turned down by Rebellion. They do the 2000 AD Thargs Thrillers competition. Stuff was fucking phenomenal. It was great, and it was just man, I was just go and start chatting to everybody in that line. John Lees is over there, Tanya Roberts is over there. Just start chatting to folk. I was keep showing them this stuff. Don't even put your folder away. Just keep it open and just walk around and go, can I get some advice? I was and just note down everything they tell you. That's all it is. A lot of people I get a lot of people at conventions that will ask you how do you get published? And I'm mix them. It works out about £4 a comic. It's cheaper if you order more. You know what I mean? I was convert all your JPEG. It was once you finish drawing your page digitally, convert it to PDF and send them the PDF, and they'll print it for you.
I think that's what people one of the things that worries people is how do you get it published, because it's not like you're working with a major publisher. It's not like contracts and working with a publisher and stuff. You're literally just printing it yourself on Mixum or whatever system.
I use Mixum, but other printers are available.
Yes.
Yeah, I used Mixum from my last one. I was watching the there's a guy who does. I've actually got his comic here. Let me try and remember what his name is. Matt Garvey, is it? He does a series on YouTube about how to do comics. So tips on writing, scripting, paying artists, how to get them printed. And I think he did one that was about using Mixum. So yeah, I thought I'd give that a go.
Mixum. What I like about Mixum, and the thing that probably grabbed me personally at the start, is they don't bullshit you on costs. And I'm not saying other people do, but they just tell you up front what you're going to pay. Whereas a lot of other printers, and if anyone has others that don't do this and wants to send me links and stuff, I'm happy to shop around. But what I like about Mixum is it's so easy, and you can tell them exactly how many pages of your book, what size you want, whether you want it in color, how you want the pages to be finished, and they'll just they give you an automatic quote, and you're and that's it. And and I really like that. Where I have worked with others in the past where you tell them what you want, and then you have to send them, and then you submit your request, and then have to wait for a quote to come back, and it's no, I want to know how much I'm paying now.
Yeah. The first, so with drops, I did that through Comic Printing UK, a guy who's based down in England, does a lot of comic book for small publishing, and he kind of checks over your files and things and tells you if they're right or not. So I was a bit nervous using Mixum because I thought, if I've got something wrong, and I get all these comic books back, and like the pages cut off or the colors aren't right or something. But thankfully, it all turned out okay.
That's the only thing, isn't it? Is sending some. I have that fear every time, and I'll check my PDF and check it, and then until it arrives, I still have that fear that like
checking your pages are in the right order and things. Because I'm sure I bought a comic off someone once when the pages weren't in the right order, and they'd actually put a note in with it saying like these 2 pages should be this way around. It was just 2 pages that they must have just like uploaded wrong. So yeah, it's panic time.
So how are you getting on? So Wyrm funded really easily. You know, you had a really good experience with Wyrm, didn't you? It was quite.
Yeah, it was good. Like I set the funding goal pretty low, so I was quite hopefully confident that it would pass it. And it funded, and I got all the copies sent out for that. So now just going around Comic Cons, trying to sell it at the cons and things. And it's available on my website, towerhillpress.com.
Write that down.
Yeah. Have you what shows are you booked for 2024?
So I'm going to the Glasgow Comic Art Fair, which is in March, and the Glasgow Comic Con, which I think is going to be the last one, which is in June, 1st of June, is that? I think it's the last one at the Albert Halls.
We did that one last year. That was quite good. That was the one in the city centre place, wasn't it?
The Halls building, the top of Tokyo Hall Street, right? Yeah. It's always really good. Like that was the first one that I started going to as a punter. I really enjoy that one. Because it's a lot of indie creators and small press creators and things. So I quite enjoy that one. Like I said, I was saying to you, like I really loved the Dunfermline Comic Con, but sadly it was like the last year they did it. It was the year that I did it.
I think they got and they've had quite a lot of bad luck with that. Obviously, there was I remember it was the Beast from the East 2017-18, whoever that one was. That happened. That happened like 2 weeks before Dunfermline Comic Con because it was in March, and they had to cancel it. But like when they had to cancel it with the marquee built in the Glen, ready to go. You know what I mean? It was like ready. So I think that there was a crowd after that. There was a crowdfunding to cover the loss. I think they were like 20 odd K down. You know, it was ridiculous amounts of money.
Yeah.
And then the next year it ran really successfully. That's when I went to. We were probably there. So 2018-ish, 2018.
Yeah, that was probably the one. Yeah.
And then there was obviously lockdown the year after, which happened 2 weeks before. 2 weeks before traditionally they would do. It was always on my birthday weekend. So I remember the year I went. It was great. I went 2 or 3 years, but the last time they ran it, it was my birthday on this Saturday. It was also Dunfermline Comic Con that Saturday, and it was fucking WrestleMania on Sunday. It's like the best weekend ever. It was so good. I would really like Dunfermline Comic Con to come back, and I think it was like a mini Festival, wasn't it? Like they went into the comic aspect of conventions a wee bit more than other conventions tend to do. So
yeah, because some are more kind of pop culture, toys and things like that. Whereas that one I think was like almost entirely just small publishing comics. So that was what was really cool about it.
So like James Tynion was there, wasn't he? And they had Dave McKean and I think obviously Tanya. Like I think who else was there that was big? Casper Vingard. I met him there. He does Thought Bubble every year now, so it's cool to see him. Yeah, it's good. I hope hopefully it comes back. I don't know how they manage it because obviously it's Albie, Sinead, and Louise that do it, isn't it? Like obviously they're the brains behind it. And thinking about just like my tiny wee convention in the Abbott House and just how much I had to do to get that to happen. I can't imagine like when you look at how big Dunfermline Comic Con is.
Yeah, a lot must go into putting them on, I think.
Yeah. But
I think like Dundee Decon's really good as well. Like I'm going to try and apply for that again this year. I think because that's always been really good for me. The one at Dundee University. Just because
is that the Acme guys that run that one? Yeah, is that right?
No, it's like the Dundee Student Union run it. Like it's just like they just do that one. It's by Dundee Student Union. So yeah, it's usually like right next to the university, and you just get a lot of students coming to it. So it's quite interesting.
Quite fancy that one. I do fancy that one. I see it on every year, and then I don't know why I don't go. That GCAF one sounds quite good as well. We've got I think we're doing a panel at it about independent comics, so I might be in touch with you about that, Matt. Like just about or we've been chatting back and forth with the guys that run the convention, and obviously they're going to be coming on the show at the end of February, just before. But just chatting about they're like, we asked if we could do something, and they were like, yeah, like what do you guys want to do? And that was basically it. Oh, okay. Normally they're just quite happy for us to do a panel on anything. So obviously I've not mentioned it. We're not, kind of chatted very briefly with the guys, but yeah, I think doing something on small press is probably the way to go. Like that. If we can do it, so can you, kind of blather. I think it's quite good. So yeah, I'll give it a shout. If you're at the con, I'll just be like, here's Matt.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. I think that's the one that's running late as well, right? It's like 4 to 9 or something.
I met them at, I don't know. Yeah, I think, did you meet them at so John and Stu are like, what the fuck are you talking about? So like, I spoke to a person at the one in Glasgow last year, the one in the concert hall. They came up to me, and that's how I found out about GCAF. And they came up to me and were like, "Oh, we're an adults-only comic convention."
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, exactly. I did that face as well, Stu. I was like, what does that mean? I was like, because they were asking us. I don't know, Matt, did you have the same experience where they spoke to you and were like, if you want a table, just get in touch, kind of thing?
Yeah. Just give me a flag.
I was like, what's an adults only podcast? I was like, my stuff's all ages. and they were like, no, like it's happening in a nightclub, and there's going to be a bar, and it will allow, obviously there are certain comic creators that maybe have more adult aimed, and it allows them to like display their art a wee bit more than, I don't know. I've been at conventions before where it's like you have artists that have got like 15 rate, or if it was a movie it'd be rated 15, or if it was a movie it'd be rated 18, and they can't like, you can't play an 18 rated movie trailer in like a U rated film, and it's probably like the comic equivalent. You couldn't show your graphic violent comic at a convention when there's kids walking around. So like maybe there's like, it's just that like, and it's just, you can have a drink and you can have a bit more banter, I think.
Interesting fact for you, when I worked at the cinema, the projectionist ran Friday the 13th instead of Furry Vengeance. So there you go. So instead of Brendan Fraser and some cute cuddly animals, they got Freddy Krueger killing kids. So suffice to say, that projectionist got fired.
Did that actually happen? Because I worked in a cinema very briefly.
That truly happened. That truly happened. Screen 10, I believe it was, and it was early in the morning. And because it was Furry and Freddy, the guy read it wrong. Yeah. Simple as that. That did happen. That's happened a couple of times. Yeah, it was quite funny.
Our local cinema used to put. It was like the children matinees, but they would still show trailers for like 15 rated films before it. And I would be in there turning around going, why are we watching the trailer for Sinister? What? Aye.
Yeah, it does happen.
I don't know, when you go to Odeon and stuff like that, has that feel like these trailers have been selected for as appropriate for the movie attached?
They are now. It's all digital. Yes, it all comes through.
Aye, your projector isn't hanging today.
Yes, the projector. The films aren't all made up via film anymore. It's all digital copies of the film that
Hard
comes in
drives, yeah.
hard drives, or it comes in down the phone line, as I say.
Last time I was at the cinema, I noticed like your Godzilla T-shirt there, and I meant to say like new Godzilla film is awesome, Godzilla -1. But when I went to see that film, we waited about an hour. The film still hadn't started, and some guy came in. He was like, "Sorry, we seem to have lost the movie. We're just re-downloading it now."
Yeah,
Like we're re-downloading the film. It's just like, oh, okay. I miss the days when they had the actual film.
There's a digital code. Yeah, a digital code unlocks. Is it Mike still beeping? Yeah.
Yeah. Just a wee bit.
Yeah. I don't know. My apologies. I couldn't hear, obviously.
The wonders of technology, where they have to re-download the film before.
Yeah, that happened to me at like the midnight screening of like the last Star, but the Force Awakens, like the start of the new trilogy at midnight, and it was like half an hour after it should have started. Just someone walked down to the front of the hall saying, We've got the film and we have the license, but we can't get them to merge. I'm sorry, we're going to have to give you a refund. And
no.
Someone at the back of the hall shouted, "I've already took my Eckies. What do I do now?" He was ready to go to a galaxy far, far away, and he's been told to walk home. And he's like, "No." Oh,
yeah.
That was a great night.
Who would take Eckies to go and see a Star Wars film? That was a really depressing experience.
The best, only way to get through the new trilogy.
That boy was ready to see
Force Awakens is fine.
Aye.
Yeah,
that's how it's Force Awakens. Let's go.
Yeah, we did when what was the last one called? The Last Skywalker? Something Skywalker. Rise of Skywalker. Rise of Skywalker. Yeah, we went to the screening they did where it was like all three back to back with like Rise of Skywalker starting at midnight. So yeah, it was a long night.
I did the same with Age of Ultron. I went saw every movie from the start to Age of Ultron. It was actually a really unenjoyable experience by the time. Yeah. Actually started. Me and my mate were sitting looking at the list going, we can actually fall asleep during. We'll get a wee nap during like Iron Man 2. And it's just like I was like, actually, what's the point in this? Like, if we're planning, if we're planning breaks, when naturally, like, there was nothing stopping us. I think it probably took us longer than we needed to work out. We could, because it was in the Omni Centre in Edinburgh, and it took us longer than they needed to just work out we could go away. Just come back. We knew Age of Ultron was starting at because that was going to be the midnight screening on the Wednesday. The first screening. And so basically it was from 8 o'clock the Tuesday morning, and it was just all of them. So it took us longer than it should have to realise we could just go somewhere else.
We could go to Nando's. Yeah.
But yeah. It's good. Some of those films
too many films to watch, I think. All the Marvel films.
It was only till Age of Ultron, but even then it was still like 10 films or whatever it was. It's ridiculous. I wouldn't recommend it. Like when you see these Lord of the Rings screenings and you're like all three of them, and you're like, yes, that sounds amazing, and it's not.
I would do that. I would do all of Lord of the Rings. I love Lord of the Rings.
Not in one set though.
It would depend if it was the director's cut or not.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Another scene in the pub.
Home, but not in the cinema. Yeah, someone sorry, I don't know if everyone can see the comments, but someone's saying there about the decon, that it's the graduating art student organizer. Yeah. And the profits pay for their opening night of their degree show.
Ah.
But yeah, it's a great event. I recommend
there as always.
I definitely recommend that one. Event.
If it's Dundee based, Kellyanne just seems to have her finger on the pulse and is just able to go, actually, what you'll find is it's exactly this information that you're spraffing your way through once again, Jeff. So she's gonna Yeah, exciting year for you, man. Have you got, in terms of like, obviously you're doing the rounds with Wyrm, you know, it's not that long out. Have you got anything creatively coming out this year that you're excited about?
So yeah, working on Drops Part 2 as well. Connor just sent me through all the sketches for that. So it's like the first 5 pages are done and drawn, and then it's another 15 pages to draw of that. So hopefully that will be out by the end of the year at the very latest. So yeah, I'm quite excited to see that. So that's going to be like a 3-part series when it's all finished. So that'll be part 2 coming out. And then the other one, the sci-fi one I was telling you about, is also currently being worked on, but that might be next year that that comes out. Yeah, I have a lot of ideas as well. I'm just too lazy to get anything done at the moment. I need to just get
that.
down.
It's hard, man. Like, I know we just spent a lot of time talking about how easy it was, but it's fucking hard. Like, and you know, none of us do this for a full-time job either. So
yeah, that's the thing with work. It's like, yeah, you find you don't have the, like, you kind of have to put time aside to like really get down to doing it. Like once you start, it's enjoyable. It's just that maybe not tonight, maybe not today.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that, yeah. I put things off and then I'm like, right, okay, what's the deadline? Oh shit, right, okay, I better get the crunch, yeah.
Sometimes, like, if I do get some work done, I'll thank myself later. Like, I come back to something in a few months and be like, oh, thank you, past me's already written like 5 pages of this.
Jeff the Juniors was that. I love that. Like when you're like that, like I've got this to do, I've got this to do. No, I did it. I've got something done.
Yeah, that's always a good feeling when you open something like, oh, I've done more of this than actually I thought I'd done. It's nearly finished.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Right. Obviously, you're more than free to hang out with us, man. Like, it's always good fun to hang out. You weren't able to get a pint with us after decaf. So if you want to hang out with us, we're going to just move on to the podcast about like yeah. But I'd love to hear your input and stuff.
No, I'm happy to hang out.
I've popped a link for Towerhill Press in the comments as well. So if anyone wants to check out what Matt's doing this year or what he's already got going, that's great. Right, Stu. Like we've not seen you in ages, and you always seem to be on adventures. What's happening?
This is where I would say no much, but yeah, I went to Belfast at the weekend and tried to do as much as I could in the space of like just over 48 hours. We flew out like dead early on Friday morning, landed like we were in Belfast for like 8 a.m. Wow. So we went, done the Titanic museum, cried, went and saw Godzilla -1, cried even more.
Is it like the greatest maritime disaster in history? I'm standing there. Less sad than like a monster movie.
Oh mate, this is a different monster movie. Like this, it's a monster of emotion. Like I couldn't handle it. There was just so much going, like absolute roller coaster. Like I had nails before seeing that movie, and it was funny in a case as well because this was 2:00 in the afternoon, and we'd been up since 3 in the morning to obviously drive to the airport and fly. So my wife kept falling in and out, and every time the Godzilla music started, she woke up going, "Is it finished?" I was like, "No. It's just like Jaws. Be quiet. Something's happening." and then she would fall asleep again, and then she would wake up. So what's happened? It's like, shh. I need to kind of. She's all right. 1 minute. And yeah, it just for like a 2-hour film. Just I wish I could share it with my children, but it would traumatize them. It was like not a film for kids, but it is such a fucking film though.
Where does it fit into like something? I watched Shin Godzilla recently for the first time, and it's like it's an odd movie because obviously it's anyone that's not seen Shin Godzilla, I can't even really explain it. It's a Godzilla film, but it's kind of not at the same time, and it's like It's kind of gone. It's kind of my interpretation is it's kind of gone off the premise that like if Godzilla is a response to like the nuclear bombs that went off, Shin Godzilla is like a response to like more modern.
Yeah,
issues.
I would say Shin Godzilla is more of like a satire on like the government's response to disasters and things like this.
It's like from their perspective, where it's like, it's okay. Will the problem just go away? Oh no, it's evolving. Ah, fuck, we're gonna have to say something.
And it's like constant debates and conferences and discussions on how they deal with this.
Like, he's in the background, just getting closer, like through the window, just getting closer to the buildings. Like, right, we need, come on, more ideas, guys. He's here.
Is that that episode of the Mitchell and Lead Loop where he's like, "Come on, Boffins, let's solve this."
Godzilla -1 is like set just after the First World War, the Second World War. Like, so it's it's very much like almost a retelling of like the original like 1950s one.
Yeah, it's like almost a sequel to Oppenheimer.
Just you watch the book back to that. That's a great.
Yeah, exactly. But no, just like it's one of these movies for once you actually care about the human side of the Godzilla movies. Like, I'm actually invested in these people, and not just like the main character. Like almost everyone is like this brilliant character, and they can make me cry at a drop of a hat. So, but it's just something I would absolutely just encourage everyone. Like, it's almost like even if it was a movie where they took out all the Godzilla and it's just some sort of like wartime drama, like it would still be amazing. Yeah, maybe no one would have heard of it at that point, but still. But there's just so many great moments I can't wait to kind of share with people or someone else that's seen it. And just think
it's an interesting part of world history as well. Just that sort of Japan immediately post World War II, obviously, like it is, and admittedly, it's not we talked about very briefly before we went to air about Studio Ghibli and stuff like that. I've seen films, I've done my reading about Japan sort of during World War II and towards the end of World War II, and then the immediate like surrender. But like the recovery and like it's not something I'm massively familiar with, and also there's this national shame of like my understanding is there's a bit of a national shame in that the emperor wouldn't surrender, and actually there's a lot of blame on him for like actually if you surrendered when you were threatened, and then he was I know you two probably know more than I do, but did they not effectively have to like oust him because he was just like Japan will die to the last man effectively? And they're like, no, we won't. Stop it. Like,
Well, they kind of had to protect the emperor a lot because like the emperor is kind of meant to be descended from a god, I think, still at that point. Like they believed the emperor was from like a divine bloodline. Hence why like the prime minister of Japan, who was also like a right-wing nationalist, essentially took most of the blame for what happened. They essentially said, oh yeah, it was all his idea and he totally like brought Japan into this, even though the emperor of course has to sign off on everything and agree to go along with this. But I think he got kind of absolved a little. People like, oh, we can't blame the emperor. It's a bit like in the UK, it's like, oh, we can't blame like the queen, like you blame the prime minister, even though she would be like the one who's like, yeah, I'm happy for all this to happen. But yeah, I think like the thing with Godzilla, like the original and the new one, like Godzilla is such a film about like the nuclear like tragedy. Like Japan was like the only country that's had like 2 nuclear bombs dropped on it, and it's like the aftermath of that and the fear, basically like the fear of nuclear power and the fear of nuclear energy. Another thing I really liked about the film, not to spoil too much about it, but it touches a bit on like the idea of kamikaze pilots, which obviously like a lot of people were forced to become kamikaze pilots, and it was seen as like the honorable thing. And the film kind of deconstructs that and basically says like, is it such a great thing to kill yourself in the name of like the country?
Some real heartless reactions that happen to like your main character of the movie, where you're thinking that you might be met with sympathy, and it's the opposite. But yeah, and it's
do they challenge the perception as well in the film? What the Godzilla movie I want to see is where they challenge how a lizard can be pals with a moth. Might be like that's the Godzilla movie I want to see, and the moth hangs around with two young women without anybody questioning the creepiness of that.
This one is sort of like, right, it's just him, so he is more or less the threat in this movie, whereas before it was the trailer for, was it Godzilla Kong the New Empire, and they're running side by side towards something, and King Kong's got like a big mech arm now, and it's like, these guys are just making action figures now. Like, he's got a different color, he's got mech suit technology, and they're running side by side, and then it cuts to -1, and when Godzilla like arrives at Tokyo, he's got like tank controls, so it's like there's no running, high-fiving your big monkey friends. Like, there's just something about, like, they took it back to basics, like in a very modern setting, but still just kind of made him look incredibly limited. But still, even just the fact that, you know, how he always has like his thermal beam, the fact when that charges, it's like all the spikes, the plates in his back start popping out and glowing, and it's just like the anticipation of shit, he's gonna blow up. And just when that happens at like crucial points of the movie, you're like having panic attacks in a cinema, because you're like, oh no, I want both of them to win. So
I still really like. I love the Godzilla movies. I really liked I really loved King of the Monsters. I thought it was great. Like,
yes,
I don't like that film kind of came and went without much fanfare. I remember folk making quite a big deal about the first Godzilla, and then Kong Skull Island and King of the Monsters kind of happened, and nobody really spoke about them. And then obviously Godzilla versus Kong just through pure noise.
But I think the only people really talking about the King of the Monsters was like 7-year-olds. Like, they could not fucking believe it. It was Christmas. Everyone showed up. Like, you got King Ghidorah, you've got like Mothra, Rodan, like they're all here. Like, my 7-year-old was in his element. Like, we were about thrown out of the cinema because he had like a running commentary throughout the whole film.
It was Avengers Assemble for monsters, wasn't it? That's all it was.
Yeah.
It's like when you see all the Step Up films together. You know, if you've ever watched the Step Up films, Step Up 5 is basically Step Up Assemble, because it's everyone apart from Channing Tatum, because he wouldn't sell it.
Finish watching those, you're at the top of the staircase
dancing. I can't dance, so there you go. Step Up Assemble.
It's funny you mentioned this whole 7-year-old thing about watching King of the Monsters. I don't know how old Sean was. I don't think he was as young as 7, but my oldest, we were watching King of the Monsters, and it's the first time I watched a movie where he got an Easter egg before I did, and it's when you realise that the Japanese woman is a twin.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Like, obviously, there's a monster behind the waterfall, and then somebody kind of says, "Oh, Dr. So-and-so" to her character, and you turn around and you realise it's an identical twin to the Japanese woman that you've been following for the last hour of the film. And it was my oldest Sean turned around, "That's two Japanese women. That's Mothra." It's like, man. I understood that reference. I'm good. I'm glad you did it. I really want to see it. It was one of those weird films it's about, again, like the Miyazaki movie that's out. It's on limited release, so it's trying to find somewhere that plays it is hard.
It always seems to be like 9:20 at night, because it came out on the 15th of December, and I tried so hard to get to like Dunfermline and see it, and eventually I had to be in Belfast to catch it at a 2:00 in the afternoon screening.
Is that why you went to Belfast?
Especially, yeah.
You know, the flights lines up. I will admit I was looking at cinema times. Is that right? I know we've got hockey on Saturday, but Friday is all mine.
Well, that's it. So if I wanted to go and see it tomorrow, I would have to go to the Ocean Terminal View at 2:10 or 25 to 11 at night, or to Cineworld at 1:30 in Edinburgh, or the View in the Omni Centre at 5 to 12.
Yeah, just silly things.
And it drops straight down. I mean, it's in the Ocean Terminal every 2 hours from 1 o'clock. So
Mm.
I still really fancy it. Just
it's highly recommended.
yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
And
What,
the only other
watching?
thing I did was the Game of Thrones tour, which I will waffle on about, but highly recommended to anyone who enjoys that show. I've only watched the show like when it was on, like from when it started to it finished, but that tour was amazing. Like standing on the sets of the show, and they had like a string quartet playing the theme music, and they absolute rinse me in the gift shop, like every which way they could. Yeah, I was wrung like a cloth. But still, highly recommended.
Cool.
Amazing.
Yeah, I missed the Game of Thrones tour when I went. Went to the Titanic Museum, which was really good. But yeah, I was there with my family who know nothing about Game of Thrones, so it was like, no, we're not doing that. Because they filmed a lot of like the outdoor stuff.
What's quite interesting about the Titanic and Game of Thrones is it's both their stories are quite good to the last bit.
Take a bow.
Too soon.
Too soon. It's an open wound for some people. Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry how Game of Thrones ended, everyone. Sorry.
You know what? It honestly didn't bother me at
There's
all.
room on that door for both of them. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah. There was.
The guys, who are the guys that do all the testing? What's that thing called? The program where they test movie theories. What's that called? Mythbusters.
Mythbusters. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure they actually did test it, and it was big enough for both of them. I'm sure that was one of their first season myth busting. Is the door big enough? And it was. So
crazy. Well, I watched Echo this week, which dropped on Disney Plus.
This week, yeah.
It dropped all 5 episodes yesterday on Disney Plus, so I watched it all. Only 5 episodes, and it feels like longer than
good size season.
It feels like longer than 5 episodes. I'll tell you that much. It's slow. Some of the episodes are half an hour long, and it's slow. It starts off well, and then it kind of tapers off towards the end. I was quite excited for it because I really enjoyed Hawkeye. I think Hawkeye was maybe my favorite Disney Plus show, and I watched it again over the weekend in anticipation for Echo. And episode 1 does kind of feature heavily on flashbacks, and it fills in some of the pieces from the first episode of Hawkeye from Echo's perspective, which is pretty cool. And then it just kind of goes a bit weird. You know, it's all kind of like tribal Indian lore and stuff, and it went a bit strange for my liking. I thought it was going to be, you know, street level Kingpin, Daredevil, all that kind of stuff, but it all went a bit mystical, which wasn't a way I saw it going. It started off well, but like I said, tapered off towards the end. So we'll see what happens when they do the new Daredevil show.
That's definitely the reviews I've seen of it. Is it's quite messy as a program. It was, but I think that's just the general consensus of Marvel at the moment. Is it's substance over style, which is starting to rub people up the wrong way.
Well, in saying that, I've started watching the What If as well, which dropped over Christmas time, which dropped daily for about a week and a half. And the What If is fantastic. The What If is all about story and emotion, which is funny because it's a cartoon, you know, and it's got more substance than the actual live action as well. It's just it's a weird dichotomy between the two.
I think season 1 had one of my favourite. So spoilers for anyone that's not seen What If season 1. Probably my favourite moments in the MCU is when the Watcher's narrating, and then Ultron hears him, and it's like that's just as a sort of fourth wall breaking moment is the most sinister kind of. I think Watcher's still narrating as if he's narrating the TV program, and then Ultron turns around and is like, "Who said that?" And you're like, "Oh fuck, that's chilling."
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like the moment where in Justice League where the Flash is running, and then Superman turns and sees him at high speed, and the Flash is like, "Holy shit!" It's like that kind of moment. Yeah, it's like, all right, okay, I thought I was untouchable, you know, and that was really creepy. But yeah, season 2 so far, 7 episodes out of 9 in, and it's stunning stuff. It's really, really good. The animation is amazing.
Yeah.
So if you want to see something with a bit of substance, watch What If. It's really good.
Now, I saw a meme on Facebook where have they released what the episode count for Daredevil's supposed to be?
It was supposed to. It's not supposed to be like 20 episodes long or something. It was like ridiculously high.
Yeah, I thought it was something like 18.
Yeah.
And it was just the fact that I was like, right, I feel like 8 is always kind of like the nice level ground. But when the fact that like Echo's getting 5 and then Daredevil's like 18, like how long are the episodes going to be? And like it seems overwhelming.
I don't know. Well, the thing about Echo is they dropped it all in one day. I thought they were going to do it weekly, but it's short. It's short enough. The seasons, 5 episodes. Like I say, some episodes are 40 minutes long. Some are half an hour when you take away the massive end credits that they put on, and then the stupidly long opening credits as well. So you can literally watch it in an afternoon. So it's not going to take up too much of your life. But I think maybe Marvel knew they didn't have a big hit in their hands, and that's why they dropped it all in one day, as opposed to will people come back to this week to week? That's usually you have to wait a week, and it's like, right, okay, would I be interested in coming back to this after a week? Yeah, maybe not. So I just powered through in an afternoon.
And then just in general, a total scary time for Marvel. I never thought this day would come, and I know like other folk have talked about it, and I think we've managed to steer away from that conversation, but it's all over you. All the YouTubers I follow, that's the conversation, isn't it? What's happening with Marvel? Is it doomed? Obviously, they're starting to like they've gone from a moment where every film was a surefire hit. They're now at a period of time where like it's hit or miss. Some TV programs are like the worst. Like they're coming out and being immediately. I think I'll need to find the article, but Secret Wars? The drop off from Secret Wars is ridiculous. So like the episode 1 to episode 2 drop off is brutal. Whereas like
Secret Invasion,
Secret Invasion. That's not Secret Wars. And Secret Invasion is usually like what will happen is like loads for most TV programs in existence. Actually, everyone tunes in for the first movie, the first one, sorry, and then it has a drop off unless it's really good, and then you sometimes have like the sleeper hit one where it's like it has a moderate start, and then like and quite a lot of shows do that. So you either have like you're Lost, which is like bang episode 1, and then it has a bit of a drop off until it settles for like its standard like usually gradually decline, but like it has its like sort of standard like level of viewers. Usually the big opening, and then like it drops to like its mad level, or it has the one where it starts quite low and builds up. So like your peep shows and your Office and your How I Met Your Mothers and stuff all started. Friends even started quite moderate and then built up. Whereas then but then like what they've noticed with like streaming, generally speaking, is like you have your first episode, everybody watches it, or most people watch the first episode, and then it's like trying to work out is the drop off going to be that brutal or not. And I think the Secret Invasion was just nuts.
I was reading an article. I was reading an article recently that was saying like the reason like Barbie and Oppenheimer did so well is like in comparison with like the Marvel stuff is there was like no homework required. You could literally just go and watch that one movie, get everything you need in that movie. You don't need to have watched like 3-4 TV shows before it. You don't need to be keeping up with everything.
Yep, that's exactly it. My wife was on Netflix the other day. She's like, "I quite fancy watching a bit of Spider-Man." So I was like, "What Spider-Man do you want to watch?" And she's like, "Yeah, well, where do I start?" I said, "Well, look, you can start here with like Homecoming, and then it's the next two, or you could go back and watch Civil War. If you watch Civil War, then you have to go back and watch Captain America, Thor, Iron Man 2." And she just kind of went, "I'm just going to watch Spider-Man." I just went into it dry, So it is, as you say, what was Marvel? Because I went
to see the second Doctor Strange movie, not having seen like the WandaVision and stuff. So I enjoyed it, but I felt like I'm missing something because like they're obviously talking about something here that I've not seen.
It's funny because what was Marvel's biggest strength, which was the shared universe. Where it was, all right, cool, there's Nick Fury for 2 seconds, there's somebody else for 2 seconds, or there's that Easter egg for 2 seconds. has now become a hindrance because we're now on 7 TV shows, 30 movies, and it's like, right, kid, I have to have seen something else in order to see this.
And some people
that's
said
gonna
I haven't really been following it, but some people said it seems a little directionless, like they're not sure what it's building to.
Yeah, I don't know what's
They
happening.
got the major stuff that obviously I don't know how much we want to talk about that, but I think the fact that they were building. Can you imagine? Like I think that Jonathan Majors thing is insane. Can you imagine during like I don't know I'm trying to think of the equivalent would probably be if they found that Josh Brolin was a wrong'un just after Age of Ultron.
Mm.
You know what I mean? That's where we're at. Where they were building to Kang, and then all of a sudden, can we still build to Kang? How are we going to do that?
Yeah.
It's
interesting. Yeah.
There's quite an interesting conversation I'd seen online where, like, we've entered a weird phase of watching this stuff where we're used to certain things. Whereas, like, if this had happened in the 80s or 90s, they just fucking recast it. They would have just gone, like, and we don't do that for some reason anymore. Like, there seems to be a struggle with that concept now, whereas, like, we went through 3 Batmans and 4 films in the late 80s to mid 90s, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we can't change one, we've had 2 War Machines technically, like, why can't we just.
They had the same thing with the Flash, right? With Ezra Miller, but that still turned out being quite a successful film, I think, from what I heard from people. I heard
it was I enjoyed it, but I heard it was a massive bomb financially.
Okay.
Like it really struggled. Like there's loads of reasons. Like I think Ezra Miller, they get a lot of hassle, probably quite deservedly for their behaviour. But there's so much going against the Flash by the end of it. It came out during the writer's strike, so nobody could promote it. And then even with the normal crew being able to promote it, Ezra wasn't promoting it, and it was like it's just there's so much good about that film, but then
there was a lot against it. Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Yeah, one positive thing, I know Dave recommended me this when I was at Dunfermline. I watched Gen V, which was really good. I definitely recommend that one.
Gen V, yeah.
It's like the spin-off from The Boys.
Yeah, it's on my list. Yeah.
It was entertaining.
So it probably needs to be one of my next ones. I've heard it's really good. I just finished The Righteous Gemstones. I talked about this very briefly last week, and it's tremendous. And if anybody really just wants something totally random, I don't know if it's maybe not even geeky. It's geek adjacent, but that like to steal a John Bruceism. It's a program about a world famous televangelist family in like the southern states of America who have like completely managed to basically turn their church into a capitalist like utopia, and it's just very funny. It's got Danny McBride, it's got John Goodman.
Yeah, I think that's right.
The
Flintstones.
From Flintstones. It's also got and probably it's John Goodman, famously of the Flintstones.
From the Flintstones and Coyote Ugly, John Goodman.
and Blues Brothers 2000. My favorite character is the guy. He's called Baby Billy, and he's like the matriarch that Righteous Gemstones is based around like the passing away of like their the legacy of their matriarch who's no longer with them, and how she was like she's not there anymore, and the family are struggling to stay together because she's not there. But her little brother, who's called Baby Billy, despite being in his like late 70s in the program, but he's played by, I can't remember the actor's name, but he's played by the guy who's the baddie in Ant-Man 2.
Oh yeah, so Boyd Crowder from Justified.
Yeah, he's so good.
Yeah, he's good. He's good.
So
I like it.
So I would, if anyone's looking for something totally random to watch, it's getting superhero fatigue, or even superhero satire fatigue, you should need to check out The Righteous Gemstones. It's very good.
I think I do. I need to, because I've always liked the concept, so I just want to kind of see how it pans out. Is it like an ongoing or is it finished?
3 seasons, and I believe they've been green. So I think all seasons are on Sky, or Sky. You know, it's an HBO show. So I think Sky have the. If you've got HBO Max or something, you'll be able to grab it on that. So that's my cat desperate to get fed in the background. For anyone that's like, what's that weird noise? Claire tried to sneak in to get some wine, and the cat's like clocked her and is like, meow. No, it's on HBO Max in the States. I think I think Sky has the rights to broadcast.
Yeah, because I remember seeing it advertised on the side of buses over here, and I was surprised. Like, oh, okay, we could see it here. That's cool. Because I think I've always kind of seen like the adverts on YouTube and think that might be all right. It might be worth watching that before Obsession.
I think it's of its. I think it's of its sort of its place. So obviously, like it maybe didn't like take off over here because televangelism is not really a Scottish like UK phenomenon.
Aye,
but certainly, obviously, I'm an RE teacher to trade, so like just anything that's got like that has a satire on religion's quite it's quite fascinating. They're really good, and that it play like the main cast they're all God-fearing Southern. It's a God-fearing Southern religious family. Then obviously there's like it plays into the drama of like the hypocrisy of their behaviors and stuff like that. So it's good. And then like the antagonists represent different stuff every year as well. So I think season 1 the antagonist is somebody that's trying to like blackmail them. And by season 3 it's like they look into like the antagonist is a doomsday cult leader who just happens to be like related to the family through some sort of bizarre like quirk. It's a good show, and everyone wants to like just something a bit random and a bit different. It's got Danny McBride in it, and he writes it and directs a lot of the episodes as well, and he's amazing. the pyrotechnics expert from Tropic Thunder.
Who interestingly also wrote the last Halloween trilogy.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, he co-wrote the last Halloween trilogy. Yeah, with David Gordon Green. You know, the one where Jamie Lee Curtis came back. Yeah, Halloween Kills. Halloween Ends. Yeah. I
didn't know that. That's quite funny because I just associate him with like a comedic kind of. Obviously, we talked about East by. I always forget what that program's called.
Eastbound and Down. Yeah.
Eastbound and Down, which is great, and I forget it. And the girl that's his like love interest throughout the series is absolutely stunning. I always forget that. But yeah, I just associate him with he was a pyrotechnic guy in Tropic Thunder. He was in
Alien Covenant.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He was like the pilot.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Hot Rod as well. He was in Hot Rod. Fantastic film. Have you ever seen it with Andy Samberg? Great film.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I was fine for most of that film, but that Cool Beans moment just can't get over it.
I still say Cool Beans. Cool Beans, I still say it. It's outrageous.
I know, but just to say it like 30 times in span of like 60 seconds at different speeds.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, right, you had me for most of it, but I'm hitting the skip for the next 30 seconds. I'm sorry.
No.
It's kind of saying that Righteous Gemstones is a bit like Fargo. It's not as black comedy as Fargo. I love Fargo though. Like that's on my list. I only ever watched the first 2 seasons of Fargo and then
the Ewan McGregor season, which I think is season 3, is outstanding.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to that. I watched the film a couple of months ago. It was on.
Oh yeah, so good.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Yeah.
Probably also the last time I think The Simpsons was good was the Steve Buscemi episode. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's like Steve Buscemi appears to Homer in a dream. He's like, "Hi Homer, I'm Steve Buscemi." He's like, "Are you the guy that got put in the woodcutter in Fargo?" He's like, "Yes," and they high five and then like dance off. It's like, Fargo's good. I've only seen the first 2 seasons of Fargo. Kind of stopped halfway through season 2 for some reason. I can't remember. just maybe wasn't feeling it at the time. But it's
Yeah, too much content, too much.
The
There is.
UFO show
There's-
up yet?
No, I've not got there yet. I'll need to go back. It's been years, man. What was going to other thing? I've mentioned this last week, and I don't know if I can't remember timing. I watched the movie The Room, which is the Tommy Wiseau.
Yes,
Tommy was
yeah.
I watched that. Last week, I also watched the Disaster Artist, which
Yeah,
is
making of, yeah.
Okay.
it's so the book was the movie The Disaster Artist is based on Tommy's pal Greg, who made the film with him. It was like his mate from San Francisco, and they both went to LA together to become big Hollywood stars. And so the movie The Disaster Artist is based on his memoirs from the whole experience. And it's anyone hasn't seen The Room yet.
I've seen The Disaster Artist, but I haven't seen The Room.
Yeah. I think I actually watched The Room.
Yeah.
Couldn't, maybe 5-10 minutes in, was like, this is horrendous. And then I stopped it, and then watched The Disaster Artist. And then when you realise like how to like the Disaster Artist is almost like as well as being a really good film in itself, and it deserved all the applaud it got, is also like it almost teaches you how to enjoy The Room. So you can go back and watch The Room knowing like what to look for. And it's fascinating. The fact that he has his own toilet built so that he doesn't share, and like like Tommy does like total random stuff that like, oh right, why are you doing that? Like there's a scene where he's like he has a green screen built next, and then he has a green screen built so that he can like stand on the for the rooftop scenes, and they're like, why don't we just film on a rooftop? And then they do it again where there's like he has an entire alleyway built in the studio, and they're like, it's a perfectly good actual alleyway over there that won't cost us like $300,000 to build. And he's like, oh man, this is Hollywood. We have to build the alley. And he's like, no, we can just film it over there. And he's like, total point blank refusing to like compromise anyway. And,
yeah, Disaster Artist was good. It was a fun film. Have you ever seen the film American Movie? I think it's called American Movie. It's about two guys in America. It's like probably 20, 30 years old now, about two guys trying to make a horror film called Coven. But it's, fantastic film. Just like all the problems that they face, like trying to make this film. I think it's shooting on like Super 8 or like 16mm or something, like really old style filmmaking. But yeah, it's a really fun film.
Cool.
I really fancy. I've not seen it yet, and I actually can't remember what it's called. But was it not the So the Friedmans, maybe? Is that what it's called? Sorry, it's the one that
Steven Spielberg did. Yeah.
Fablemans.
Fablemans. Yeah,
that's one. It's kind of the same. It's about him. It's like a semi-autobiographical movie of him trying to make his first movie, which he all did on Super 8, didn't he? It was like trying to make like a UFO movie using a handheld camera.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but I only know of one reoccurring joke in the movie. I think there's at one point they tell him about when you're framing a sunset, you've got to do it a certain way, because if you just bang in the middle, it's not any good. You have to have the frame higher than usual. And when the film actually finishes, it kind of ends on a sunset, and then it quickly adjusts the frame so it's up higher, just as different men. That's the only thing I know about that movie. And I was like, that's clever. I like that.
It's like in Fight Club when you spend the whole film when they make the joke about the penis, and then there's a penis right at the end of Fight Club just before the credits.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that's nice.
Well, that's a nice penis. Thanks for that.
We should
That's
not
a callback. That's a
IMAX.
callback to an hour ago. Well done. All right. Has anyone got anything else they want to blather about? Is anyone like pressing? What are folk up to this weekend?
I'm just going to go see the Miyazaki movie on Saturday. That's my main highlight of the weekend. Unfortunately, I just realized that I booked the dubbed version, but I have to live with that.
It has like a good amount of sort of like Hollywood stars like contribute because it was like Christian Bale and Robert
Christian Bale.
Pattinson and
it's got like a fantastic cast. Yeah,
I think actors would jump at the chance now to kind of dub Miyazaki movies.
The
So
dubbing's okay. I thought you meant another one. Like I would prefer the dub to the subtitled version.
Oh yeah. I always watch the subtitled
really?
version. Yeah, but then I'm big into my like Japanese Japanese
Nah,
films.
that's fair enough.
Mhm.
I really enjoy. I love Laputa. The Miyazaki movie Laputa.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the dubbing on that. I think this is my head canon, but I think they did Spirited Away and like they with a dub, and it was great. And I think they realized actually if we dub these with quality, we can rather than just like
Spirited Away won the Oscar, I think, for best foreign language animated film or something.
Yeah.
So that's like 2001. So definitely since then they've always had like a star cast, like Hollywood A-listers doing the dubbing.
I know they're not A-list, but like with Laputa they had is it James Van Der Beek, the guy Dawson from Dawson's Creek?
That's right.
Dawson's Creek.
And they had and they had Anna. I can never say her second name. The girl that's Rogue.
True Blood.
The girl that's Rogue and X-Men. Yeah, and I thought the
No,
dubbing that was great. The guy that plays the big brother guy from Everybody Loves Raymond's in it as well.
You recognise that voice from anywhere.
Yeah. He always plays like a big scary character and everything. He's like a bear in like Ice Age or something.
He's the same. He's like Sky Pirates in Porco Rosso, which like had Michael Keaton as the lead.
Yes.
Porco Rosso's got a great voice cast, isn't it? Michael Keaton is it not? Oh, I'm gonna have to Google that now before we go. The guy that plays the rival pilot, is that not the one that's from The Princess Brides? And
yes, Carol Ewan. Aye,
Carrie Ells, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
He's the antagonist in that, isn't he? He's great.
Aye.
Like he's got a really cool voice for that.
Like perfect for like the smug git that he plays.
Yeah, totally. I forget Porco Rosso until it's on, and I'm like, oh yeah, it was on film 4 of last year, and I was like, this is great. Porco Rosso's brilliant. Like, anyone else got anything exciting this weekend?
Nothing. Got some deadlines to hit, so other than that, that's about it. Nothing exciting for me at all, unfortunately.
I filmed my pub crawl in Belfast, and I have yet to watch any of the GoPro footage. So I'm going to try and turn that into a video, but I'm so scared. I'm so scared of what I did.
Good, man. That'll be fine.
So yeah, I've got some videos to play around with, but I'm not ready to open those files just yet.
I'll be fine, man. What I think you'll find is the issue. If there is any issue, it'll just be the sound. Like if you could just, because it'll just be you sounding drunk. But like, I'm thinking just have a voiceover over it, so that there's me wolfing a pizza outside a club at midnight, dressed as Phil Mitchell. Yeah, amazing, man. I've got I don't know if anyone's around, but on Sunday I've got the second round. Anyone can join, but I've got the second round of the Scottish Pinball Association season on Sunday. So
Are you competing?
Yeah. Me and Sonny are both competing. So Sonny competes in the juniors, and I compete in the seniors. It's at Mortal Cocktails in Edinburgh, which is just Coburn Street in Edinburgh.
Mm-hmm.
So if you got, I think we all know Coburn Street in Edinburgh, don't we?
Yeah.
It's down one of the alleyways that runs between Coburn Street and Market Street. It goes down there. It's a beautiful bar, actually. Good for pints. They have a fridge of like cans of beer, including they've got like alcohol-free stuff in there as well. But they've got just a nice wee mix of beer, and they've got like Pilot on tap and stuff. It's a great boozer anyway. Mm-hmm. But they've got half a dozen pinball machines and half a dozen arcade machines in there as well. So, but the way that the Pinball Association works is that they run an event every month from November to May, not including Christmas time, like December. So we did me and Sonny were in Cumbernauld in November. We did a heat there, heat 2's in Edinburgh on Sunday. So quite excited. They've got a Sopranos pinball machine. So yeah, it's cool. So it's like if anybody I love pinball. I don't know how anyone else. I don't know how everyone else feels about it. But usually when you find a pinball machine, you find it in a pub or you find it in HMV have them.
Yeah,
you find it. You'll find it in HMV and you put £1 in and you get 5 minutes of a laugh and you're like, I enjoyed that, but it's quite expensive, so I'm not going to do it again because I've it cost me. Whereas what I really like about the Scottish pinball stuff is I'm going to go to. It's a £5 to get in for me and Sonny because Sonny it's like £3 for me and £2 for Sonny. I just chuck in a tenner because it all goes into like a central. It all goes into like a central pot that covers future events and stuff like that. But I'll pay a tenner for me and Sonny on Sunday, and we'll be able to play pinball from 11 o'clock till about 6 if we want to for free. So 11 until we get fed up playing pinball, basically, because like no one wants to play pinball.
Dad, my hands! I can't flip no more.
It's good fun. You show up at 11, you get like an hour and a half practice, basically, just a shot in every machine, and then you do a wee Ailsa, who's an awesome lady who runs the league in Scotland. She'll go through like the rules for you for like 10-15 minutes. Then you'll get something to eat, and then from 1 until you finish, you get given a wee card that's got all the machines that you're playing on. And basically, you go around in like a team of like it should be like 2 or 3, but we did it as a 4, so it was like me and Sonny, who's like my 8-year-old, and then a guy Alan and his wee boy Harry, Harry was 12 and Alan's like a wee bit older than me, but we went around as a 4 and just like you record each other. You all play a round on each pinball machine with 3 balls, and you'd write the top score after each round. So it's good banner. Good to like just a bit. A nice way to spend a Sunday.
It's good to know that these things exist.
Yeah, something different, man. Yeah. Cool.
I was saying like last summer, I went to that retro gaming convention in Newcastle, and that's where I found it all. I was like, I really want to play pinball more because it's fucking great fun. And then found out that there's a whole league. So yeah, it's good bands.
Rule 1 of the pinball league: we don't talk about the pinball league.
Oh no, that's it. Rule 1 shattered.
Aye.
And at the end, you get a nice big penis. Fantastic.
That's right. But it's yeah, they give you a big penis, but they try and soften the blow by playing one of the Pixies songs at the same time. So
fair enough.
You've made me blush.
I know we've been trying to push these to an hour and a half, but I've had a couple of beers now, so sorry. Interest like this. I want folk follow through with this because I watched a YouTube video and I had the conversation with my son today. Right, Back to the Future Part 1. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me follow through the story. We all know the story. He goes to Twin Pines Mall. Yeah.
Yeah.
He meets the doc. The doc shows him the time machine and gets shot by terrorists. He then travels to 1955.
Yeah.
He knocks over one of the trees.
Yeah.
He accidentally stops his mum and dad from falling in love and has to rebuild their relationship. Then he does so. He then flies back to the future through this amazing set piece at the clock tower. He arrives back into the future, which is now at the Lone Pines Mall because he knocked over the tree. So it's instead of 2 pines, it's 1 pine, right? But also he's moved into a future where his parents and his family are no longer losers. His mum's not an alcoholic. His dad doesn't have motor oil in his hair anymore, and is assertive and has written a book and is successful. And his bully, who was his supervisor at work, is now buffing his car and stuff like that. Yeah. Where does the Marty of that past go? That present go? So he goes to when he goes to the single Pines Mall, or so called Lone Pines Mall. And then all that stuff happens, and he watches the doc get shot, and he watches Marty go back.
Yeah.
1955.
That's the Marty. That's the Marty.
What happened
from that timeline?
That Marty has grown up with really nice parents and a family that are not losers because of. So what happens?
Doc Brown mercy kills him 5 minutes before our Marty shows up. So I'm sorry, it's for the fate of the world.
Have I stumbled across something that everyone's been talking about for years?
Basically, yeah. I mean, there's the two Martys, the two Martys theory. Yeah, what happens to the Marty of that timeline? And basically, when he arrives back at the Lone Pines Mall and he sees the whole thing play out again, that's just basically the Marty of that timeline.
Yeah, but would it be like he's at the mall doing shopping and all of a sudden?
Yeah. What?
It's just like he's overtaking his subconscious.
Well, no, because he goes back. It's like the self-fulfilling prophecy. He goes back, and it's cyclical. So basically, it's always going to happen anyway. If you know what I mean, it's one of those weird things. Yeah. But it's not that clever. Yeah.
But the Marty that goes back, the second Marty, so like Marty 2 or whatever you want to call it, the Lone Pines Marty, he's a totally different guy because he's grown up with parents that are not alcoholic and are totally assertive. So he's a different guy. He's obviously Marty and he's Marty McFly for the same birthday and shit like that. But he's grown up with like parents that believed in him and believed in themselves and weren't like being a dickhead about his I think like Marty 1, his mum was like, what kind of girl calls a boy? I don't like her. Marty 2's mum's like, oh, I like her. She's such a sweet girl.
Yeah.
And you've got, he's a different guy.
But that's what they say. That it's a tragedy because he doesn't have the memories of growing up with that family. He has the old memories. So Back to the Future actually is a tragedy more than anything else because Marty doesn't get to he doesn't get to experience the good upbringing that the other Marty who goes back in time did. So it's people like that's actually that's horrific. That's actually a serious drama. It's like, well,
I want to find out what happens. I assume it'll be quite boring. Like that Marty will go back and the Doc will grab him. He'll go back in time and he'll go and find the Doc, and the Doc will just the Doc will work it out, I presume, and just be like, because of the way that the timeline works.
Yeah.
We've obviously done this in the past and fixed it.
Yeah.
But and I think they cover it very briefly in Endgame as well, don't they? With the that's bullshit. Yeah. I spent an inordinate amount of time reading about Marty 1 and Marty 2 this week, and I just wanted to know what you guys thought.
Yeah, and then you get obviously into the sequels, and there's more divergent timelines and whatnot, and it all gets a bit crazy. Yeah, it's a bit weird. Yeah, but you know what?
I do love that
it's one of these
confusing
things.
That they actually just go like chalkboard.
Yeah,
and that's one of my favourite scenes. Folk criticise that scene in Back to the Future Part 2. But I like that it gets so confusing that he's just like Christopher Lloyd's like, look, I'm going to draw it so you can see it.
Yeah, so much exposition. Yeah, it's fantastic. But as well done though. It's good how they managed to shoehorn the explanation in there, and the fact that we know Doc has, as a workroom, he is a professor. He has a blackboard. He has all that stuff. So it's not like shoehorned in, like the X-Files movie, the very first X-Files movie, where they're trying to, for people who haven't seen the X-Files, just wandered into the cinema to have drunk Fox Mulder explain to a barmaid, "Oh yeah, I'm a lone conspiracy theorist," and explains the first 5 seasons of the X-Files in like 2 minutes, and it's the clunkiest bit of dialogue you've ever heard in your life.
Which I guess would help a small portion of the audience, because I do know it's a fond memory I remember is my gran went to go see the X-Files movie in cinema, not know anything about it other than it's a popular drama on BBC Two.
It's a drama. She's expecting Howard's End or something, It's the X-Files. So
she got there and was like, it wasn't what I expected.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a lot of these things,
We have to, as comic writers, like we often, and Matt will hopefully be able to attest to this, you have to try and you have to do the whole show not tell rule when you're drawing shit. You have to be trying to get stuff drawn. You have to because it'd be like an episode of Star Trek. Like you have to be able to like explain something without like over explaining it. And it's really hard because actually it's a really hard thing to do. And you can go down the X-File movie route of just have a drunk character explain the plot, or you can have Christopher Lloyd try and draw on a chalkboard, or you can have a group of characters like wittily arguing about it in a scene. But it has to be done, otherwise you get this. So I remember reading a book where the guy was saying, like, imagine watching an episode of Star Trek and they need to explain how warp speed works, but obviously within Star Trek, everybody in that world knows how warp speed works, so you can't just have them explain it to them. It'd be the equivalent of going like, it'd be the equivalent of like getting in a car in a cop drama and going, right, that's us in the police car, which, as we know, has a series of buttons that if you press that one, this will happen. If you press that one, this will. You have to, the show not tell aspect.
Yeah, doing exposition is a real skill.
Yeah.
Yeah, exposition's really hard to write, especially if it's sci-fi type stuff. Like, people criticize Christopher Nolan, but like, I love his films. Like, I think Inception does a really good job of that, even though it is a clunky like sit down while I explain how all this works. But he still does it in an entertaining enough way.
Yeah. You could go the Michael Bay route as well and just blow everything up.
Yeah, I like the recently I just read, I've actually got it here, I just read the Watchmen for the first time. I know it's like the classic comics, but I just got around to reading it for the first time, and I like the way that like there's so many little background details that like it never really gets into exposition, but as you're reading it, you know that there's the war with the Russians going on, there's the nuclear threat, all this stuff is like just filtered in almost to the background, and almost before you realize it, you have like a whole head full of like information about this world.
They have like the newspaper articles and whatnot. Yeah, it's quite interesting. Well done.
Dave Gibbons was at Glasgow Comic Con talking about how he designed the little electrical charge points. So reading it was really interesting because they're all driving electric cars and charging their cars on electric. And I was like, in 1985, that would have been like, what? But now it's kind of, that's happened. But it was interesting. Again, it doesn't really draw attention to it. It's just like one line, maybe, like, we charge cars now.
My favourite story, I'll need to see if I can find it, because I interviewed Dave Pugh, who was a 2000 AD artist in the early 80s. He went on to do loads of other stuff. He basically, all our favourite like official annuals in the mid 90s, like your Power Ranger annuals and your Sonic the Hedgehog annuals, that were all drawn by Dave Pugh. I've got a RoboCop and a Masked Rider annual, both drawn by Dave. But me and Colin interviewed him for a Comic-Con a couple of years ago, and he has a story that he drunkenly at a convention was there with Dave Gibbons and Alan Moore, and Alan was talking about, I've got this story, right, but it's all going to be done in 9 panels. He's like, and Dave Pugh was just like, I'm not doing that. Like, that sounds really boring. It's like, one of my favourite details of Watchmen, I was chatting to one of my pals. She read it over the Christmas holidays, and she messaged me and was like, why are they doing this with the like the way that the writing, if you look at I don't know if you clocked this when you were reading it, Matt, but like the emphasis on certain words within within the lettering is totally weird sometimes. And they were like, okay, Jeff, why have they done this? Why is the lettering like this? And I googled it because I actually didn't know. They photographed a panel for me, and it was like emphasizing some words totally randomly. So I googled it. I was like, why did Alan Moore emphasize certain words in Watchmen? And it was because he was bored. He was just like. He was like, he was trying to keep people on their toes because he realized, like, kind of what you're saying, like his exposition was maybe he was trying not to be overly detailed in the language. So he was like, but he subverted that to the point that he was like, I'm going to deviate from the language so much that I'm going to make it not make sense in terms of like fonts and shit.
Just so you read it carefully. Yeah, it's definitely a book where you have to like notice so many little things going on in it. And I liked because after I read it, I went and watched like YouTube videos on like how amazing it is and how brilliant it was, and they're talking about how Rorschach's speech bubbles change shape. Like in the past, they're like a normal like clear round shape, but then after he has like his mental break, they go into like the jagged like outline. So like it's really minor detail you might miss, but when you notice it, it's like, oh yeah, like obviously changed like how he is.
Yeah, he gets
And the
slowly,
whole, like,
slowly. He loses control.
the Black Freighter stuff as well, like where it's got like two stories going on at the same time. So good.
I recommend the movie version. If you haven't seen the movie version, it's quite faithful to, especially the extended version.
I saw the movie before I watched it, and then I just watched the movie again the other day there after I finished it to see like it matches up quite closely, but I have to agree with like a lot of people. It seems to miss the point of it being a satire.
That was the. I think it was to make it a bit more palatable for audiences to change the ending a little bit, but it's like that was the whole sucker punch. That was the gut punch, you know.
Yeah.
But you need to go.
I quite like the change. I quite like the change of making it. I quite like the idea that they make it Dr. Manhattan, and they were able to like direct. They're able to spoilers for a film that came out like 20 years ago or whatever. But they're able to direct. They're able to direct people's blame onto like. There's a conversation in there about like being able to target your blame on something. So by making it something that everybody has observed rather than like a squid, I quite like that. It's probably one of my favorite moments because it sort of subverts the baddie architect of like, and like anyone that's seen Team America has got the greatest example of this trope where like a baddie turns around and is like, say goodbye to your world in 10 minutes, and then they press the button and then it's like the dramatic countdown to the end of the world. Whereas they do the opposite in Watchmen, and there's a really awesome bit where like they're trying to stop him and he's like, we can try to stop me all you want, but like I did it 20 minutes ago, and it's just great. And you're like, you realize that's the best sucker punch, and I can't think of anything better. Actually, if anyone can think of another alternative, like just that subversion of trope where it's like instead of the countdown from 10, so the goodies have got enough time to try and cut the red and blue wires. No, the baddie did it ages ago. You're totally
like the Austin Towers when you're going to put them in an easily escapable trap and shut the doors so you can't see them.
Just assume everything went according to the plan. Yeah. I love that. The best bit of that scene is the son going, I've got a gun in my room, right? I could just go get it. And I could just do it now. Like, no.
Yeah.
So
you always have to have some elaborate scheme that they can easily foil.
Yeah. Well, that Simpsons episode where they base it. It's probably the best. Again, hand on heart, probably the best Simpsons episode ever is the one where Homer goes to work with the supervillain. And he gets a job offer to work with
basically Scorpio or something.
Scorpio, yeah. And he's amazing at his job, but he just happens to be working for like this evil like Bond baddie. And at one point, I think Bond escapes. Bond's there and does like this total like coin flick thing, splits a laser so he can escape. And as he's running away, Homer tackles him. It's like that's it, and you're like, he kills James Bond by like just doing something his boss asked him to do very nicely. It's great, love it.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go, guys. I'll see you.
I think it's probably the time. I didn't realize the time because we started.
All right, okay, go. Okay, right. Take care. Right, bye.
Take easy.
Yeah. Sorry, we're just getting to blethering chat now, aren't we? Will we call it quits today, guys?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Matt.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it was good to chat to you guys, and I'll no doubt see you again at some cons in the not too near future.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Cool. Cheers to see you next week, man.
No problem. Cheers, Matt.
Cheers.